You know, there's something I've been thinking about lately, something that might have crossed your mind too. When we reach our 95s, we start to reflect a little differently. It's not about the things we did that we regret. No, it's often about the things we didn't do, the stories we didn't share, the traditions we didn't pass down, the little pieces of ourselves that might fade away if we don't take the time to preserve them. And that's what I want to talk to you about today. Not the regrets, but the opportunities. Because even at 95 or 90 or beyond, you have the power to leave a legacy that lasts. A legacy built on the richness of your life, your values, and the traditions that shaped you. So, let's talk about 5 powerful ways to leave that lasting mark. Ways that go beyond money or possessions, and instead, focus on what truly matters. The cultural traditions and the impact you've had on the people around you. The first way, share your stories, out loud. There's something magical about hearing a story from someone who's lived it. The way their voice changes when they remember, the little details that only they could know. Maybe you've sat with your grandchildren or great-grandchildren and told them about the world as it was when you were young. The dances, the music, the way neighbors used to gather on porches just to talk. But here's the thing, those stories don't just entertain. They teach. They connect. They remind the next generation that life wasn't always as it is now, that resilience, joy, and community have always been at the heart of what it means to be human. So how do you start? It's simple. Just begin. You don't need perfect words or a grand setting. Next time you're with family, or even a caregiver who's willing to listen, share a memory. It could be as small as the way your mother used to make bread, or as big as the day you met your spouse. The act of telling it, out loud, with your own voice, makes it real in a way that writing it down sometimes can't. And if you're worried they won't remember, tell it again, and again. The best stories are the ones we hear more than once. The second way, preserve your traditions, even the small ones. Think about the rituals that have defined your life. Maybe it's a holiday tradition, like a special dish you only make at Christmas, or the way your family always said grace before meals. Maybe it's something quieter, like the way you take your tea in the morning, or the songs you hummed to your children when they were small. These traditions are like threads in a tapestry. They might seem small on their own, but together, they create something beautiful and lasting. The problem? If we don't pass them on, they can disappear in a generation. So here's what you can do. Invite someone to join you in one of these rituals. Teach your grandchild how to make that family recipe, not just the ingredients, but the stories behind it. Show them how you set the table the way your parents taught you. Explain why it matters. And if your family isn't nearby, write it down, record it, even a simple note. This is how we always celebrated birthdays in our home. Can be a treasure for someone later. Traditions don't have to be grand to be meaningful. Sometimes it's the smallest ones that stick. Now I know what you might be thinking. Does this really matter? Will anyone care? Oh, they will. More than you know. Because what you're leaving behind isn't just a story or a recipe. It's a piece of you. And that's something worth preserving. But we're just getting started. There are more ways to build this legacy, and I'd love to share them with you. So, let's keep going. You know, when we talk about leaving a legacy, it's easy to think of big, sweeping gestures, donations, monuments, things that shout from rooftops. But the truth is, the most lasting legacies are often the quiet ones, the ones woven into everyday moments, the kind that doesn't make headlines but does make a difference in someone's life. So, let's keep exploring these powerful ways to leave your mark, because at this stage of life, you've earned the right to focus on what truly matters. The third way, pass down wisdom, not just advice. There's a difference between saying, do this, and saying, let me tell you why this mattered to me. Advice tells people what to do. Wisdom helps them understand why it's worth doing. And you? You've got wisdom in spades. Think about the lessons life has taught you, the ones that came the hard way. Maybe it was learning patience during tough times, or realizing that kindness costs nothing but means everything. Those aren't just lessons, they're gifts. And the best way to give them isn't in a lecture, but in a story. For example, instead of saying, "You should save your money," you might say, "When I was your age, I once spent my whole paycheck on something foolish. Here's what I learned." Suddenly, it's not a scolding, it's a shared moment. It's human. So, how do you start? Next time you see a younger person facing a challenge, resist the urge to fix it for them. Instead, tell them about a time you faced something similar. Let them see the why behind your words. That's how wisdom sticks. The fourth way, celebrate your roots and let others celebrate them with you, your heritage. Whether it's the country your grandparents came from, the town you grew up in, or the culture that shaped your family, is a living, breathing part of you. And it's one of the most precious things you can pass on. Maybe you've kept this part of your life close, sharing it only in bits and pieces. But now's the time to bring it into the light. Cook that traditional dish with a grandchild. Teach them a folk song or a saying in your first language. Show them the photos of your parents in their wedding clothes, and explain what those clothes meant. If your mobility or energy is limited, don't worry. Legacy isn't about performance, it's about connection. Even pointing to a map and saying, "This is where we came from," plants a seed. You'd be amazed how hungry younger generations are for this kind of knowledge, even if they don't realize it yet. And here's a beautiful thing. When you share your roots, you're not just giving history, you're giving belonging. You're saying, "This is where you come from. This is part of who you are." In a world that often feels rootless, that's a powerful gift. Now, you might be wondering, what if my family isn't interested? Here's the secret. Sometimes, they don't know how to ask. Start small. Leave a cultural artifact, a recipe, a piece of fabric, a well-loved book, where they can find it. Curiosity will do the rest. Legacy isn't built in a day. It's built in moments. Moments where you choose to share, to teach, to connect. And the best part? You've already got everything you need to do it. But we're not done yet. There's one more way to leave a legacy that lasts. One that ties all of this together. Let's keep going. You know, as we've been talking about these ways to leave a legacy, I've been thinking about something my own grandmother used to say. We're all just stories in the end. Make yours worth telling. And isn't that the truth? At this stage of life, we realize that what people remember isn't so much what we had, but who we were, and how we made them feel. That brings us to the fifth and final way to build a legacy that lasts. But before we get there, let me ask you this. Have you ever noticed how certain moments stick with you across decades? A stranger's kindness during a hard time. The way your father laughed at his own jokes. Those aren't just memories. They're living proof that the smallest acts can outlast us. The fifth way. Create living memories. Moments designed to be remembered. Here's something fascinating about the human mind. We don't remember days, we remember moments. And you, with all your years of experience, have the power to create moments that will become someone else's treasured memory. This isn't about grand gestures. It's about intentionality. For example, that afternoon you teach your great-granddaughter to plant flowers the way your mother taught you, and tell her, "Every spring when these bloom, you'll think of me." The time you gather everyone to listen to that scratchy old record you danced to in your youth, and say, "This is what joy sounded like in 1952. The way you always squeeze a loved one's hand 3 times to say, "I love you," without words. These are what I call living memories. Experiences you craft knowing they'll become part of someone's story long after you're gone. The key is to be fully present. Look them in the eye. Say their name. Let them see how much this moment matters to you. Bringing it all together. Now, let's take a step back. We've covered 5 powerful ways to leave a legacy. 1. Sharing your stories out loud. 2. Preserving traditions, big and small. 3. passing down wisdom through experience. 4. Celebrating your roots with others. 5. Creating living memories designed to last. But here's what ties them all together. Legacy isn't about perfection, it's about connection. It's not about leaving behind something polished, but something real. That family recipe with your handwritten notes in the margin? More valuable than any published cookbook. The slightly off-key rendition of that old folk song you sing? More cherished than a perfect recording. A gentle challenge for you. In the coming days, I invite you to do one small thing, just one, to start building this legacy. Maybe it's telling a story you've never shared before, writing down a tradition with all its messy, wonderful details, recreating a meaningful moment with someone you love. And if you're thinking, but who will listen? Trust me, someone will. Maybe not today, maybe not the person you expect, but your stories and traditions will find their way to the right hearts when the time comes. Final thought. A wise woman once told me that our lives are like stones dropped in a pond. The ripples keep going long after we're gone. At 95 or 90 or whatever beautiful age you are, you've already created countless ripples. Now it's about making sure they keep spreading in the directions that matter most. So here's to your legacy. Not as something you leave behind, but as something that keeps living, keeps growing, keeps telling the world, I was here and it mattered. If this resonated with you, I'd love to hear in the comments, what's one tradition or story you want to make sure gets passed on? And if you found this helpful, consider sharing it with someone who might need to hear it too. After all, that's how legacies grow. Until next time, keep making those ripples, my friend. They're more powerful than you know.